Hi, everyone. So welcome to this session of ACM's After School Club. My name is Huda Mahdi, and I'm a games development tutor here at ACM. I teach games programming and business, and you might have seen me a couple of weeks ago teaching games programming, but today is all about business. So without further ado, let's head over to the PowerPoint slide so we can go through some business model canvases and what they are. So we're going to create our first business plan. And there are two different approaches. So you have the traditional one where, you're writing a very, very long business plan, which is very detailed. It's more common, standard, and it's formal. It's more in-depth and detailed. And, it's this one on the left side, but it takes a lot of time to write. And it's a must to have, for serious investment. And it's used by AAA companies. It can be very lengthy though. So, 30 plus, we can speak about, 70 plus pages as well. So it's very lengthy, takes time, and you must know like the ins and outs of the businesses. Whereas the one we're going to do is very simple and it's very high level, informal, and it's more about summarizing the key elements rather than, digging into every single thing very deeply. It's very fast to write. In fact, it's one page, so it's really, it's a canvas, so you can fill it in within an hour or a day, as much as it takes for you to gain some knowledge and background insight into your own business. This approach is used by many small studios and independent game developers and other types of studios who want to, quickly get on with their business and start to prototype and test their idea before, writing a traditional business plan and seeking investment. So let's see how it looks like. So a business model canvas. We've talked about the purpose, outlining the essential business model components. So it's about having an overview, right, over the key components of a business plan. And it summarizes it, and it gives you an idea of what you already know, what you have, and what you might need to gather more information on. So the components that you need to answer, the components that you need to fill in is there are 9, and I've listed them in this way because there are a number of ways you can fill this canvas. This is my approach, and this is the one I like. You can start with customer segments, which is about your target group, so about your customers, who you're selling to, but then also the beneficiaries and end users. So sometimes they're a bit different, like who benefits of this product. Sometimes it's not the customers, not always them. And then the value proposition. So we're going to talk a bit more about that soon, but basically why you're doing this, why would they buy it? The channels, and then the customer relationships is about, how you reach your customers and how you keep them. So these 4, as you see, I have highlighted them. They're about the desirability of the product, right? They are about, do people even want this product? How do we know that? Then you will know it by answering these questions and filling in these components. And then the next 3 is about the feasibility of this idea. So can we do this? Do we have the resources? What kind of activities are we doing? Who are our key partners? These things are essential in order for you to understand what you have and what you need to get in order to make your business run, basically. And the last 2 is about the viability of this idea and this business, cost structure and revenue streams. So how much you're paying and then how much you're gaining. And then you compare the costs and see if you are on the plus side or on the minus side. This is how you, like, very simply put, know if you are going to survive with this business, or if this business, is something that is worth doing and taking on. So let's take a closer look at it. This is how the business model canvas looks like. You can download it from strategizer.com/canvas, and they were the ones who basically standardized, let's say, this model or this view, this way of thinking. And you can download it for free. It's online. It doesn't have to look exactly like that. You can do your own, based on this model, on this Canvas template. So it starts from here. So my approach starts from the right, and then we go slightly to the left. So if you see here the customer segment, to the very left, and then we have in the middle the value propositions. So customer segment, as I said, who is your customer? Customer, end user, beneficiary. Sometimes they're the same person or the same target group, and sometimes they are a bit different. So and you answer this question by looking deeper at your target group or at your market, and you're doing so-called market research. What that is that you are looking at these people, who they are, looking at demographics, where they live, what they do, their ages and stuff like that. But then also psychographics. You start to analyze them, like what are their hobbies? What do they like doing? Right. And also more about, what are what we call like pains and gains. So what are they struggling with, or what are their political views, and what are their belief system, and so on and so forth. These things may not seem very relevant, but they can have, they might have to do something with your business. So sometimes there are tangents in places where you would never imagine. So it's very good to know your target group as well as possible, as much as possible, and creating personas. And what that means is that you're creating, like identity cards, like this is from real people, right? So this is, Maria, for instance. This is how she looks like. This is where she lives. These are her hobbies, and you fill in, information about real people and what they do, and then you move on to the next one, value proposition. So why would such a person like your idea? So if we're talking about games, why does your game matter to this person, to Maria, or to someone else in the target group? Why do your customers really want your game? So sometimes we answer these questions, twice. Once because, what you're selling to them, or like how you sell it to them. And then the second one is you're digging deeper into the value propositions and seeing why they actually need your game. So you have functional, social, emotional reasons for doing things. And with game ideas, for instance, you might say, it's fun and it's unique and whatnot. And but then why they really want it is because they want to impress their friends, for instance, which is like social reason, or for instance because it's an educational game. So it's for maybe intellectual reasons, or because they're playing this because it's actually a gamification. So it's another type of reason. So basically what you want to know is why it matters to them, how you're going to sell to them as well. So pain or gain basically means, are you removing an obstacle from their way, or are you just taking something good and making it more awesome? That's basically what it is. It's very important to understand your value propositions, because if you're getting it wrong, and if you're just putting reasons for your clients, they might not buy it. They might be insulted sometimes, like, why would you think I would like such a game? Why are you selling it to me? So it's very important to know your audience and choosing the value propositions that actually match with their own. So how the next question would be, how do we reach out to our customers? And then we go to this component here, which it's called channels. And basically what that is how do you acquire your customers and where? And this is about the first contact, where do we acquire, where do we catch their attention, really? And it can be, on social media. This is one of the most common ways of reaching out for nowadays. And but then also, the distributors and their app stores, like PlayStation Store, or Steam, stuff like that. So it's very important to understand where your customer, you see how it goes back to the customer. Like, you have to understand your customer, where they're at. and how you reach them, what they like, why they do things and stuff. So the next one is like, how do you keep them? You've got their attention. How do you keep them in the game? How do you make them continue playing your game? And this is like your way of interaction with them as well, because it's not just about playing the game, but also staying in this culture, right? The game culture, as we say. So, would it be wise to do like one-on-one emails and meetings, or is it more in the forums, or doing like, those online parties where you do tournaments, or you do some sudden competitions and events for the players to meet up. So it's important to know here, of course, your customer, what they like and what works best. These four are all about the feasibility, right? And it's important to, always research, research, research. Research is about the customer, what they like, where they're at, how you keep them. So the next three here on the left side is about, the backstage. Now we're moving on to see the feasibility of this idea. Can we do it? Do we have the resources? What do we need to do? Who's going to help us? And you start off by listing the key activities. So what do you do to run your business? And here we're going to list, the processes and services that you're doing. The key ones, really. It's not like, extensive list, but the most important processes and services and activities that you are going to that you're going to do to, that makes up your business, really. So the main thing is like games development, right? So that's where we're at. We're doing games development, but then sometimes, there's more stuff depending on the business model. So there's no like wrong and right answer here. The most important thing is that you understand what you're doing in this business and what you're supposed to be doing in order for it to run. So the next one is to see, do we have the resources for doing these activities? So what and who is needed to run your project? And here you're listing, the game dev team, the infrastructure, the IT, the offices and all that comes with it. But then also licenses. Sometimes you'll need to partner up with other people or other businesses, and you'll need a lot of, licenses and agreements and software and hardware, that is like outside of your business. So you need to list everything here that you can't, basically you can't be without. And once like, what you're doing, and then the resources that you'll need, you'll also understand better, like what you already have, like in-house. So for instance, your dev team or your marketing people. But then you're also going to figure out, all right, what do we need to outsource this? So the next one would be the external key partners, right? So which external supporters are essential to the model? So, and here we want to list like distributors, right? The publishers, if you're not a publishing. So if you don't have that, part of your business model. And then some outsourcing studios, if you're going to have that, influencers, I don't know, like it depends on you. You want to know who your allies are, basically, and how they can help you, and how this deal is going to be, right? Because you're going to write licenses with them, you're going to have some sort of deal and agreement with them, and depending on how it is, it may or may not cost and so on. So you have to know what you have already and how much you can outsource. So the next one would take us to cost structure. So anything you are listing, anything that costs something, you have to take that into account. So on this cost structure, and this component, we want to know about your spending and the ways, your budget and how you spend it. And here, once again, you're listing, the most expensive things or things that are there regularly. So expenses, frequency, variability of costs. What that means is like how regular it is and how much you're paying, but also, how it varies along the way. So for instance, rent would be something. If you have an office, with some workers, rent would be something that is reoccurring and pretty much constant. You have the salary of the dev team, and and anyone else involved in production, management, marketing, and then some resources. The whole IT for infrastructure would need, for instance, if you're doing like an MMO, you would need servers, right? The internet providers, all these things are going to be listed here. So, and it's not about listing, exactly each one of them. Remember, this is a summary. So, just to estimate how much is going to cost. So that would be for resources, but then also like license. If you're going to outsource something, for instance, you're using the Google API, right? If that's going to cost you something, you need to list the cost here because your game depends on it. It's not a one-off. Marketing, publishing, same thing. Here is going to be things that you need to take into account. Especially marketing is going to be a lot, even if you outsource it, depending on how much you put money on it. But usually developers put a considerate amount for it to be counted here and not to be forgotten. Now that we have that, we need to calculate, what brings us the money, right? So this final box is about revenue streams. How do we gain the money? How do we balance this model? And then you list basically the key income sources, how much you get and how often you get this income and this revenue stream. So it's going to be the opposite of the cost structure where you're calculating the expenses and how much and how frequent it is. This is about how much you get in. And here you're going to be listing the products that will get you money. So for instance, the game itself, right? But is it a freemium game where it's free to play, but with in-game purchases, or is it a game that you have to purchase in order to play? Is it going to be, I don't know, like subscription based, or is a one-off payment? So here's where you're going to list your model, your sales strategy, right? And then some services that you may or may not, have. So this is very, it's simple to go through it. However, the difficult thing is to get it right, right? So although I'm saying, it's a summary, it's one page, but, don't be mistaken and think, it's not a serious step. It's a very serious step. If you're not getting this right, and then because you're going to rely on this later on as well. If you're not getting it right and if you're not thinking hard on this, it's going to be very difficult to build a business, on it later on and expect it to succeed, because things might be very different halfway through, or as soon as you start. The real life is going to be very different from what's on the paper. So watch out for that. So let's have a look at an example. This is one of my favorite games, Overcooked 2. It's done by Team 17 along with Ghost Town Games, and it's a casual game. It's a co-op game as well. I played it on PlayStation 4, but it's on numerous platforms. It came out a few years ago, and just been a great success. It's what you call an indie game. It's an indie game basically, which means that they develop and publish their own games. So let's have a look at their business model. This is, disclaimer, this is not going to be an extensive list of everything. So it's just going to be a quick and easy example, just to give you a flavor of what it means, all these boxes and what, concretely. So if we're going to look at the customer segments for this game, we see that they have targeted casual gamers, co-op enthusiasts, and social gamers and families. What I mean here is that they from the beginning, what they wanted to do was that they sat down and they wanted to do a co-op game. And then they wanted to target, families and friends that can play together. So it's a big range of age group here, right? But they wanted everyone to play together. And, like good old times where you sit on the couch, play together, or meeting up with friends, or even online that you can play. But they wanted to focus on the co-op part. So it can be very difficult to play. However, it has to be very fun. It has to give a challenge, pose a challenge for players. So they were targeting casual gamers and co-op, and you can see it here in the value propositions. When they made the game, or when they started making the game, they made co-op required. So you can play the game, but in order to get better at the game, and especially once you have proceeded a few levels into the game, co-op will be required. So this game is made for co-op as opposed to many other games. Most games I've played that are co-op, it's just about, it's like single player, and then they just increase, put another character and then increase the amount of enemies and call it co-op. Whereas this one, like, you can't win the game without having another person there, which is amazing. And what's even more amazing, it's up to 4 players. So it's really good. The other thing is that you can play both offline and online, which is, I don't know if there's any other game, like a recent game that have that feature, and that's amazing. That's one of the unique things about this game. What that means is that you can play on the couch with your friends or with your family, but also connect with someone else. A fourth person or third person can play along online. So you can connect everyone together. You can play only online or only offline or both. So that's pretty unique. And it's amazing. It's a blast. And then you have the team building. So this is like, why, the second why. Remember when I was talking about that? And it's about team building and family bonding. This is more about the social part and emotional as well, where it's more than just playing a game. It's more than just entertainment. This is more about the bond between the players. Because in order to win this game and in order to excel at it, you have to be very good at communication. Communication is key, really, in order to clear the levels here. So that's part of their value propositions. Let's look at the channels. So we're going to here, number 3. And that means, if you remember, how they acquire their customers, like how do they, the first contact, how do they get the customers' attentions. So you'll see through the websites of both so basically what they've done is Team 17 is both the developer and the publisher, right? It's an independent game. So you'll have promotional videos there, and news. They have a newsletter as well there. So through the website, you'll find some information about the game there. People would go there to find other games and then see this game coming up. And then through social media, of course, you have YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Reddit, all kinds of social media platforms where people read about games, but then also games websites and news websites about games. So that's where you often find more about the game. There's also the platform app store, or the distributors, where you will find sales and just promos and advertisements. So like PlayStation App Store or Steam, as I mentioned before, or the Windows Store. And so that's where they find their customers, and of course word of mouth with people who are going to talk to their friends about it. And then in order to keep them, when you're playing the game, you'll see that there is some online matchmaking, in the sense that if you're one person playing this game, you can play online with other people, and they will make it's called like online matchmaking. So they will match you with other players in order to play a game. There are DLCs. You'll get more characters as you play along, if you clear levels, if you get some achievements. There's levels as well you can unlock. So you unlock a new content, and then also the social pressure. So this is a social game, and you want to play with your friends. So it's all about keeping up with your circles, really. So that's one way of keeping the customer engaged with the game. So now that we have the feasibility, let's have a look. I mean, the desirability. Let's have a look at the feasibility here. So if we're looking at key activities, what are they doing? What is Team 17 doing? So we have the brand management. So, the brand itself. This is the second game for Ghost Town Games. But Team 17, have many other games and they are publishing as well. So they need to have different types of brands for each game. And they need to do that for this game as well. Marketing, of course, we've mentioned sales, games development. So they're not only publishers, they are developers as well, as I mentioned. Games development, IT maintenance. So especially when it comes to games and then they're online nowadays, you have to have some management, maintenance. I mean, for the game and fixing bugs and stuff. But then also, for the servers and the office and so on and so forth. Customer support for their game as well. They have forums where you can write and ask questions or fix bugs or yeah, customer support. And I mentioned publishing. And now that we know roughly what they're doing, we want to know a bit about the key resources. What do they have for this? They have the IP for this game. That's going to cost a bit. And then we also have the IT infrastructure, which means, the whole structure of everything from office to the hardware to the software to everything, you need. But then also the dev team and, management and whatnot that comes with it. So these are roughly, the things that need to be there. But then, of course, there are other things. Once again, this is just a quick example, just to give you an idea of how you're going to fill this in. So now that we know about these two, we need to look at key partners. I have listed Ghost Town Games here as well, although they are the developers of this game as well, because the GTG and Team 17 have this partnership relationship with them, so with each other. So GTG are developers, and this is their second game. But then also with distributors. So distributors are like, Sony PlayStation, the PlayStation Store, the Steam, Windows, and so on and so forth, whichever platforms. Nintendo Switch, I think it was published on. So Nintendo, these are the distributors that they have chosen to publish this game on. And, these have all their own licenses and agreements, which need to be taken into account. So without this, let's look at our cost structure or a bit of it. So IT infrastructure, we've already mentioned that this is something that's going to cost. The design and development, that's going to be something to cost, reoccurring costs. Marketing, so lots of marketing for this game, that's going to cost a lot. And distribution, of course, when you're selling a game, even if it's digital, it's going to cost somewhat to sell it, right? And let's see the revenue streams. So you need to pay for this game to buy to play it, right? So it's not a freemium game. But then also DLCs, you can buy some things and to enhance the gameplay and the game experience. So this is roughly the business model for Overcooked 2. And the next question here, it's your turn now. So what's your business idea and what's in your business model canvas? If you're going to make one, feel free to download one from strategizer.com/canvas, or just Google up business model canvas. You'll find it there, and feel free to be creative with it. It doesn't have to look as dry as it was when I showed it. You can color it, you can color code it, you can make different icons. So it's totally up to you. If you make one, ping us, let us know. So just have fun with it, and I hope you've learned something today. And let us know if you have any questions or if you'd like to know about other topics within business or programming for that matter. Thank you so much for joining us and tuning in. My name is Huda Mehdi, and see you on the next session.